Aaron Rodgers, guys, led a teammate to a ring. I'm not talking about years and years and years ago when he won his only
Man, why you
championship.
doing him like that, man?
Well, it's true. He officiated David Bakhtiari's wedding over the weekend. Well, as much as Bakhtiari, when he's on the field, has protected Rodgers. Bakhtiari is a great offensive tackle when he's on the field.
I wonder how many people are actually going to start that now that you said it, that he led a team to a ring. You can see, I mean, it's going to be all over Jay's social media, I'm sure.
That was Evan. That was our producer, Evan, who came up with that.
But great writing.
Yes, that was his A material. Sometimes if you hear me say something, I go, oh, God, it's B material. That was A material.
He doesn't have a lot of A's in his bag, that's for sure.
After Michael Silver of the NFL Network reported that Rodgers is expected to make a decision by Tuesday, Bakhtiari replied with, Mike, what the actual bleep? Adam Schefter reported that he and the Packers have not engaged in any trade talks for Rodgers on Saturday. Packers have been working hard to convince Rodgers to stay, of course, and there have been talks between the team and his agents about what an extended or restructured contract would look like if he did decide to stay. But there are other teams, notably the Denver Broncos, remember we heard about this a year ago, who don't believe they're out of the running yet and have not moved on to Plan B. You hire his OC to be your head coach. Everyone's talking about Denver. Where there's smoke, is there fire?
Yeah, but think about it though, Max. They've gotta trade him though. They've got his rights. They've got to make the decision to trade him. Just because Denver hasn't moved on to Plan B doesn't mean that Green Bay is going to just give him to him, you know. And then on top of that, what is Denver? Think about what Adam said about Denver. They don't feel they're out of the running. So does that mean that Denver's getting ready to say you can have all the number one picks for the next 50 years if they allow us to do it?
Yeah, I mean, look, but forget about what Denver wants or what Green Bay wants. What about what we want here on this show? Give us something to talk about. We've decided on talk radio on KJM in the morning that this is a real possibility. And listen, Rodgers created this whole thing. If he never said anything, no one would be talking about any of this, right? But he was public about it. Packers don't have to trade Rodgers, as Key mentions, even if he demands a trade, according to the Packers. If you're the Packers, Jay, and Rodgers comes to you and asks for a trade, what do?
I try to buy time. I try to buy a little bit more time. I don't know if I just trade him right away. Obviously, if he's going to force my hand, I try to receive as much value as possible. But off the bat, like I want to play a little chicken at first. Say, okay, I don't want to trade you. I want to.
Oh, you want to be? I thought you meant slow play it and then.
Well, I do want to slow play it, but I want to kind of set up a bar at first. Great, you want to be traded, Max? But I don't want to trade you. I need you. How else can I make it work? I want to set that precedent
well,
first.
Well, clearly, in this case, that's true. But what about Aaron Rodgers? Key, what do you
get this man?
Key, what do you do if Rodgers? You don't have to trade him, right? But what if he says, "Look, I really don't want to be here anymore." That dude's not going to lead you to Super Bowl if you don't want to be there. So what do? You make him retire? You cut off your nose to spite your face?
What was my conversation with Aaron Rodgers to begin with, right? If that conversation when he restructured the deal this past summer, when he came in at training camp and we restructured his deal, did I tell Aaron Rodgers that I was going to trade him? If I told Aaron Rodgers that I was going to trade him, because if you remember, there was a lot of different reports that were out there that the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers came to an agreement that at the end of the season he could come in and they would trade him if that was his wish. It was more like a gentleman's bet, so to speak, you know, and I think that's where you're at. If I'm the general manager and I gave him my word that at the end of the year, if he wanted to seek a trade, and that was the word that I gave him that we would do it based on our conversations, then I got to trade him. And if that was not the case, you better sit your ass down somewhere and get this money and play for us.
Yeah, I get that, being a man of your word. And there are like core principles of a franchise and all that stuff is important. On the other hand, there are contracts, written contracts. And the reason for that is people's words, you know, there's a stress test for that, Key. And I think it's admirable for people who keep their word when it's inconvenient to. But there are contracts for a reason, right? Like whatever people say, it's all in the ether, it's in the air. But if it's not on the written page, nevertheless, if the dude doesn't want to be there, if it's me, I'm not going to say, well, just retire then and get nothing for him to set precedent.
No,
I'm going to get something for him.
Of course.
No, you're right, Max. It comes a time and a place where it makes sense to move on from him, because whenever a player, and I said this when I first joined the show with JWill and Zubin, and they didn't understand. I don't know, I think we might have been dealing with like James Harden or somebody. And I said, once a player makes his mind up and he says to an organization in all sports, I don't want to be there, that player is typically moved 99.9% of the time, because you don't want that around in the locker room. You don't want to have to deal with a coach walking down the hallway and the player side-eyeing him every 3 seconds. It's unfair to the player. It's unfair to the organization.
Can we just dive into this a little bit more, though? Because for me, like, I wonder, yes, hypothetically always playing the what if Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be there. But if Aaron didn't want to be there, and if you're hearing Brian Gutekunst say that the Packers have not engaged in any trade talks, don't you think Aaron will be giving us a lot of signs about why he thinks the Packers should be engaging in trade talks?
I think once he put them on blast last offseason, they kind of reformed their ways, and gave him something to really think about.
And on top of that, think about it. His representatives have already started communicating what a long-term extension would look like. Why would you be communicating about a long-term extension if that's not his plans, is to be there? You don't need to communicate with the ball club if that's the case. You should be trying to talk to some other clubs about what a long-term extension looks like.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.